right here. All your needs
I chose
will be met in a minute!
I chose 8 legendary Pokemon to paradoxify, 4 of them going full Grug mode and 4 of them becoming partially randomized, but I made sure for the most part to pick their counterpart if I got them. Alright, so I'm gonna admit something. I was wrong. I thought Paradox Pokemon were kinda boring and lazy. I only really liked Great Tusk at first, as it just kind of felt like a Paldea in Evolution to Donphan. But as I worked on these and I started to catch and observe the Paradox Pokemon, I've started to really like them and actually found them to be super interesting. A comment made to do this video was what pushed me to really create this, so thank you. Anyway, let's jump in as I have opinions. Let's start with 2 shockingly large good pups, Zacian and Zamazenta. I thought it'd be funny to switch their typings when crowned around for their Paradox forms, but let's start with future Zamazenta. Zamazenta is one of my favourite legendaries, mainly the uncrowned form. Crowned form feels a bit busy, but much more complete as a legendary. But the colours and design of uncrowned is amazing. This was the first idea I had for Paradox legendaries, and my idea was pretty simple, just a sort of sci-fi tessellation of patterns that creates almost like a halo drop shield. I found future Paradox Pokemon when I first saw them to be kinda lazy. They didn't change much about the designs enough to get me interested, but the more I looked at them and studied what makes them unique is really what captivated me. Each one adds something unique from the original, things like the floating heads on Jugulus or the weird water turbine thing on Bundle. I was sold, and I mean, I love robots, so this works well. So as you can see, this is just a robot wolf of Zamazenta, but it creates these tessellating patterns to defend. Probably wouldn't have an uncrowned form unless you unscrewed all the optional parts off, but I found that it was fun to give it the steel fairy type from its sister Zacian. It's a robot and a legendary robot defender, so I think the typing fits well enough. I mean, let's be honest, the typings for some of the future crew are a bit weird anyway. Iron Bulwark, the Paradox Pokemon, are steel and fairy type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they spoke of the Iron Bulwark, a steely defender of the weak, created in a future where mankind is on the brink of extinction. It has special generators on each side of its crown that when active produce hard light plates that interlock to create a near impenetrable shield to stop even the most intensive attack. The Iron Bulwark has a powerful loyalty to humans and will stop at nothing to protect them, even at the detriment of its own body and structural integrity. Iron Bulwark has the ability Quark Drive. Past Paradox Pokemon are fun and just silly. I love how dumb it is turning any Pokemon into a dinosaur. Mushroom? Boom, it's got funny dino tail. Moth? Yeah, it's like a Mothra and Godzilla's child now. Beast? Yeah, we made it long. So thinking about what to do for Zacian was fun. Initially I thought maybe some kind of Sabertooth, but that's almost too safe. It would be just a thicker Zacian with a sword teeth and, while kinda cool, I had much wackier ideas, so stay with me here. One dino design we haven't used yet with the past crew is a Stegosaur. And I'm not gonna lie, I love how weird this ends up looking. Each plate is now a sword, and I know that like Stegosaurus didn't roll up like Sonic and spin dash into other dinos, but I think it would be so funny if the Paradox did like a Baxcalibur and just rolls at its enemy with sharp blades. And of course being able to dissipate heat. But that's the thing I had to keep in mind, every past Paradox Pokemon does add plenty of dino parts and change the body shape, but much of the actual patterns and already pre-established design is still in there. So things such as the braid-like objects and patterns are kept in the design. And yeah, I used Uncrowned for this design. I thought it added a fun dynamic between the two. Whispering Spine, the Paradox Pokemon, a steel and fighting type. A Pokemon that is said to possibly be an ancestor to the legendary Pokemon Zacian. Its quiet demeanor and air of mystery seem to connect it to its modern ancestor. They move slowly around but do not fear much. Their large stony plates work not only to dissipate heat, but work great as defensive measures. It can also create smaller, sharp, jagged plates all around its body when threatened. If scared, it can move quite swiftly. A herd of rampaging Whispering Spine would be quite the dangerous sight to behold. Whispering Spine have the abilities Protosynthesis. Next, let's do a solo past Paradox Mon, one of my favourite mythicals, Little Victini. This one came to me so quickly when I got it, like this happy little creature with a dark origin sort of idea. I instantly wanted to see this little proto version of Victini based on a caveman. One of those super like stereotypical ones with the big brow. And although I didn't include it in the image because I wanted to focus more on the actual Pokemon itself, but I love the idea of it carrying this massive Tinkaton-like club, even made of just a big rock or bones that it smashes Pokemon with. It's this grumpy looking Victini with jagged teeth for eating delicious meats it hunts after. Unlike I said before, this one is actually kept to the original in design, because I felt like the idea of going from caveman to human, it isn't like a massive change, so going from this Victini to the modern form wouldn't change a whole lot either. It's just a bit scruffier and unwilling to refrain from bonking everything in its way with its massive club. Colours I leant more towards a sort of darker version of its traditional orange and added a strip of colour to look a bit like a fur cloth covering its body. Again, stereotypical I know, but I think going towards that is the best way to show the idea of cavemen. Tiny Terra, the Paradox Pokemon, a Psychic and Rock type. A Pokemon that is said to possibly be an ancestor to the legendary Pokemon Victini. However, this Tiny Terra is much more aggressive and primal. It has great strength and will flaunt this by picking up stone clubs 2 times its own size and swing them around effortlessly. This club can take down massive Pokemon that Tiny Terra predate on. Due to its prickly nature, many people can't stand Tiny Terra and will actively avoid it. If you stick with them, they'll show a sweeter side, even going so far as to bring large gatherings of meat to you. Tiny Terra have the ability Photosynthesis. Next, let's do a future paradox based off Tapu Fini. Again, another one that just came to me straight away. I feel like it's probably been done before, but I wanted to try my spin on it. Because all the Tapus sort of go into their little totem forms, I feel like all of them could have these amazing paradox forms where each of them are inside of a vehicle. Little almost robot creatures which now explore various locations in their fun little vehicles. For Fini, I wanted it to be a sub, obviously, but also almost an aircraft or spacecraft. The actual shape design is incredibly similar, but I kind of leant towards more making it almost a Submerimon-like design for the vehicle itself, while Fini is still kept as their original shape. I went ahead to use that amazing colour with the white spots theme that they use for all the future Paradox Pokemon. It's almost like it's a LCD screen that its eyes show up on. I'd like it if instead of Fini always being open like their modern forms, instead in the future form it is always within the vessel, only ever coming out maybe when interacting with the trainer or otherwise. Maybe even shooting missiles out from the vessel. It's a funny little curious creature, almost alien-like but shy, so it stays hidden. For typing, I kept the water typing from Fini, but added the flying type. I was going to do Psychic, but I felt flying works as the vessel can jet around anywhere, not just the water. Iron Vessel, the Paradox Pokemon, a water and flying type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they speak of a machine capable of reaching both the vast depths of the ocean as well as space itself. It only opens up the vessel it controls when it feels incredibly comfortable. Trying to force open the vessel itself is impossible. Pray that your hands do not get caught latched between. The actual being within is quite curious and will spend much of its time scanning the environment and trying to mimic the movements and language of humans. Iron Vessel has the ability Quark Drive. Our next 2 Pokemon are another duo box legend, this time the incredibly difficult to say and spell Xerneas and Yveltal. Let's start with Xerneas this time. What possible creature would I pick for Xerneas? Well, I did some research trying to figure out if any dinosaur had horns. For the most part, it was things like Triceratops and their related species. But then I saw it, the Carnotaurus. While these aren't long deer horns or anything like that, it does have those protruding brow parts that work so well for what I was going for. Then I had the great idea of what if, like, you know that video, the Carnotaurus flashing their underside arms? What if this form of Xerneas did the same thing for special attacks where their red gems are hidden underneath? It's silly but fun and let me really go hard on the rest of the forms without worrying too much about the arms. The original head was kind of silly, so I changed it to a looking up regal look, as it's still Xerneas after all. I kept the whole body balanced by giving it that long tail to help keep the idea that this thing could even stand, and adds to the Xerneas connection with those fun fluffy tail parts. This one may be a favourite of the video along with Iron Bulwark. Wandering Horn, the Paradox Pokemon, a Fairy and Dragon type. a Pokemon that is said to possibly be an ancestor to the legendary Pokemon Xerneas. It is just as majestic and dangerous as Xerneas as well. It has large, powerful legs capable of stomping and breaking down trees to create a territory for itself. The hands are so underdeveloped that it only uses it for mating displays. The underside of the hands have two bright red glowing crystals. When angered, it charges forward with their horns trained on the target, prepared to gore or blast an enemy with Fey energy. Wandering Horn has the ability Photosynthesis. Next, the murderous bacon itself, Yveltal. The spin on this one would be tough. I mean, it could just be a weapon of mass destruction straight off the bat, but yeah, I wanted it to still look menacing, but not outright evil. So my idea for this one was to go off the fact that this thing has that neck fluff and turn it into something else. A thick, nasty cloud of smog. The Paradox Iron Smog would be this machine that floats along with the wing parts separate from the body and coming from the neck exhausts a cloud of smog that once was pure air till it became a bit more menacing. Out of many of the future Paradoxes, I think this one would work very similarly to Iron Moth, which I still think is the most boring name for it, but that's not important. Floating around and having those incredible robotic movements more than any other, so Iron Smog would be the same. Its body barely actually flapping its long wings anymore, the wings kind of delaying a bit behind the rest of the body, almost being useless to the main Y unit itself. For typing, I chose Poison Flying as it's not very much used typing, only for the most annoying line of the game, so it's well deserved. Colouring, I literally just kept to Yveltal's base colours, but gave it that almost toy-like spin that many of the future Paradoxes with colours use. Seriously, many of them would look great as toys or model kits, Game Freak. Hint, hint. Come on. Anyway, here's Iron Smog. Iron Smog, the Paradox Pokemon, are poison and flying type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they spoke of this Pokemon, which was a robot created to stop environmental damage through purifying air, but a glitch changed its nature and gave it sentience. It eerily hovers in the air, taking in oxygen around it and then converting it into pure, toxic smog from the exhaust in its neck. This exhaust is so toxic that one inhalation can cause passing out or worse. When powered down, it folds up into a conveniently packed up shape that allows quick and easy transport. Iron Smog has the ability Quark Drive. Our last two are singular Pokemon, but have a similar theme, and the reason why I didn't do a Sabertooth Zacian. Zeraora is not my favourite Pokemon at all. I find it kind of unnecessary, but my girlfriend loves it, so it gets a pass. For now. Honestly, I wanted to turn into a quadrupedal Pokemon with a thicker, more saber-cat body. It keeps much of the similar body parts like the hind legs and the simplified tail, but I added more of a yellow fur all over covering it as well as those kind of blunt-looking saber teeth. But I like the idea they aren't exactly made for punctures, but unleashing electricity from them instead. Maybe even crushing some bones while at it. Although colours are very, very similar, I added in some of those extra yellows and reds that past Paradox Pokemon like to do, and it's just so weird how well it works for giving the Pokemon more of a primal feral look. I guess it works well as almost looking like some kind of intimidating war paint pattern the Pokemon adapted to for harsh environments. I mean, when every Pokemon looks like that, the Pokemon past must have been pretty bad, huh? Man, I kinda wish Pokemon introduced two Paradox Pokemon, one past and one future for the next gen. What an awesome tease that would have been. Nah, well, tangent, but yeah, I wanted to get that out there. Stalking Fang, the Paradox Pokemon, an electric and fighting type. A Pokemon that is said to possibly be an ancestor to the legendary Pokemon Zeraora. However, much more single-minded and focused on the hunt. It stalked tiny terror in ancient times, using their powerful jaws to crush anything that stood in their way. If it didn't crush something instantly, it would shock the prey and paralyze them and wear them down. It has an insanely powerful jumping distance that would rival almost any modern Pokemon. Why it adapted to modern times isn't exactly known. Stalking Fang has the ability Photosynthesis. Our final Pokemon for the video and our latest is good old Chien Pao. Or should I say Chien Pao? No, I shouldn't. But this one is already a Sabertooth Pokemon, so that's good that I made it a future Paradox Pokemon, right? I thought this one would be funny just being a straight up reference to Star Wars. I mean, come on, lightsaber, it speaks for itself. So yeah, I wanted to make this funky, angry tube of a Pokemon that had two lightsabers for teeth, but I wanted to make it so that instead of the ice crystals being convex, instead they're concave. And helps show that this thing underneath is just that blue with white dots texture, and then wrapped around it is this almost stormtrooper-like armor. If I had to go back to this design again, it'd definitely make the entire blue texture just look a bit brighter than what it turned out. I think it needs a bit more light to the saber, but I think it gets the idea across. I still think it would be funny and quite difficult for this thing to actually use the saber teeth it has in both forms. Iron Saber, the Paradox Pokemon, an Ice and Psychic type. In a certain sci-fi magazine, they speak of a sword that was rebuilt to become a weapon of war to defeat the oppressive forces taking over the galaxy. It has a sleek, segmented body capable of snaking through small vents and crevices that would impede larger opponents. When it needs to get anywhere else, it activates 2 laser sabers capable of slicing through the toughest metals. Many theorize Iron Saber would make a great pet if only there was a way to turn off the dangerous sabers. Iron Saber has the ability Quark Drive. And there we have it, the 2 sides. Are you Team Past or Team Future? Comment down below your thoughts on the designs in the video. As always, chuck me a like if you enjoyed the video, and please do sub to the channel so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.